Figueroa's framework applies to all sports on a series of different levels, such as cultural and individual. But there are also many enablers and barriers that come with entering any sport, and it's the same for the sport of touch football. It can be difficult to participate in touch football for some, including myself, as it is a sport that is female dominated, which is something that is uncommon in Australia. This is backed up by the stats from the human rights movement of touch football, who quoted to avoid reinforcing stereotypical views on the involvement of boys and girls sports. They also quoted that respecting the rights, dignity, and worth of every child, regardless of their gender, ability, cultural background, or religion, was extremely important. Access and equity to many sports in Australian society is an easy thing to see among the community. There are many reasons why some selected individuals, such as myself, choose not to play the sport of touch football. The levels of Figueroa's framework that will be analysed in this discussion include the individual level and the cultural level. Both these levels look at a different aspect of one's involvement in a select sport. But for me personally, each of these levels have had an impact such as cementing a further interest in the sport for myself, but also learning the structure of the sport itself. This will be included in my reasoning for not playing the sport outside of school, which will be discussed below. The first key for my current participation in touch football is looking at the cultural level. This can include what has influenced my involvement, cultural attitudes that have influenced my views on the sport, and the impact that fellow peers have had on the involvement in the sport. For me, there is one particular reason why I have become involved in the sport of touch football during HPE lessons. Over the space of at least 10 years, I have followed the sport of rugby league, which isn't exactly constituted to the same rules as touch football. It remains a similar game to touch. Rugby league is a sport that I have loved watching and following for a long space of time, and as it remains similar to touch, this is the primary reason explaining my involvement and interest in participating in the sport. This is also why I can apply some of my knowledge of the game of rugby league to touch, further creating interest for me. Another factor that has become the result of myself getting into sport, including touch football, is the cultural attitudes behind the sport. For my family, touch football has never been something that they have been a part of in their lives, which is why it is good to try the sport. My dad has had an influence on my love of rugby league, as he has followed the same rugby league team since high school, further adding to the knowledge that I have carried over to touch football. Moving on to the individual level of Figueroa's framework. This level of framework asks only that one thinks of himself or herself and the primary reasons for participation in the sport, i.e. touch football. An easy and clear way to examine and understand the requirements of humans is to research Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The hierarchy of needs is ordered in this manner: self-actualization, achieving full potential which I have yet to achieve in touch football; esteem needs, feelings of success which have been felt for me in learning new skills; belongingness, relationships with friends and family, which is something that has thoroughly influenced me in a positive way in sport; safety needs, which I have been able to prevent myself from getting injured during play; and physiological needs such as food, water and warmth. Knowing what fits into the individual level of Figueroa's framework, it is time to look at my own individual level. 4 terms, body image, self-concept, and self-esteem, play a key role when looking at one's individual level. These 4 terms have shaped how I play and learn the sport of touch football. Body image has told me to interpret my own physical self and justify positive and negative thoughts and feelings. Self-image has taught me to understand my abilities no matter how high of a quality they are. Self-concept has shaped ideas for how I can improve my skills. And self-esteem has allowed for me to gain confidence in the current skills I possess. For me, the individual level has given me an added influence and interest to participate in touch football during HPE lessons. I have gained much confidence in the lessons that I have participated in to this point, and my self-esteem during play has certainly seen an increase. I believe that my knowledge of the game is becoming more paramount as each lesson passes. This is because of my increased self-esteem that has come with participating in more and more HPE lessons. Whilst I am not the strongest or quickest on my feet during games, the knowledge that I have brought in from league and the skills that I have learnt so far during this unit have created a combination that has seen me improve greatly and learn even further about the characteristics and strategies behind the sport of touch football. At this point, I have felt advantaged to have been given the opportunity to play touch football and become actively involved within my team. I see this as an advantage as it is sufficient for me to improve my overall skill level. Looking at the barriers, I can safely say that 2 key barriers are nearby clubs and availability of time that currently act as a problem. With football currently occurring, access to the sport of touch football whilst playing soccer remains a problem. Also, since there is a lack of nearby clubs in the area. To summarise, what has been discussed, whilst touch football is a sport I get actively involved in and enjoy playing during HPE lessons, time and lack of nearby clubs has prevented me from moving my interest outside of school to a local club.